Good evening. I'm Scott Binsack, and thank you for joining me. Tonight, I'm going to be discussing your inner child, finding the calm in the chaos. And chaos is something I believe we all suffer through in our lifetime. I happen to have suffered through, I'm hoping, more chaos as a child than others. I wouldn't wish what happened to me as a child on anyone. As well as in part of my adult life, much chaos, until I found myself. There's an inner solitude that we all have. And in this place, we can only be true to ourselves. Nothing else can interfere there. In this place, we are forced to look at our inner self, at ourselves, without fear of judgment, without fear of pain, without its peace. And we won't lie to ourselves in this place. Sometimes, most of the time, people find this solitude in a place. I found mine as a child on a beach on the Peconic Bay next to the Shinnecock Canal in Hampton Bays. My great-grandparents retired out there from Westbury, Long Island, and had an incredible ranch beach house there. On this blog, there's some pictures I've posted of this beach, and I still return there often to find my solitude at times when I need to. And in the pictures you'll see, I used to walk this beach as a little boy. And as a child, when I grew up, children were seen and not heard. So at my great-grandmother's house, everybody used to go out there in the summertime. And my father, especially the oldest of seven, he was very close to my great-grandfather and my great-grandmother. They sort of raised him. So I was dumped out there a lot. Or when my father would go out there on the weekends and go for family gatherings, I had to get lost. I didn't fit in. I didn't fit in much with any of them. And for most of my childhood, I was moved from this person to that person. Just basically, okay, you deal with them. You take them. I don't want them. Back and forth, back and forth. And this beach, because it's a private beach, so nobody was really on it. And I used to spend winter days there, even in the coldest of temperatures, when I had to. And more so about this show is that I want to explain, in the hopes that you can understand, that this inner solitude that we all have within us, it's a place we all need to go and should go at times to reflect on ourselves, as well as to get away from the chaos of the world around us. Or it could be a situation in a family, or marriage, relationship, just life. Could be a place you just want, that you find your peace, and again, that you find your inner solitude. And I believe it's very important, because it was this place that kept me sane as a child. It kept me very sane, and I used to talk to God there all the time. And as I've discussed in my other shows, dying in an auto accident and things, I had this special relationship with God. I can't explain it. And God could be whoever you want to claim it to be, but I know there's a God. And I know that everything happens for a reason. Now I do. But even then, how should I say? I always knew that I'd be safe, especially there. So we'd have these family gatherings, or like I said, as I got older, I was dumped there. I ended up even going to school in Hampton Bays. It was one of the I'm getting transcripts now from different schools to find out how many I was in, because I don't even remember from my book that's coming out. And I went to school in Hampton Bays for a while as well. I was dumped out there in my great grandmother's house when my father nor my mother could take me, or for summers and things like that, which I didn't mind in the summertime. I didn't mind at any time. It was my solitude there. Not so much the house, that beach. And there's, in the picture you'll see, there's a big dune. There's an Indian reservation on the mountain that's down the beach, and there's big sand dunes that go up there. And as a kid, I used to climb up those dunes, and I would sit at the top of those dunes, and they're very, very high. And it was there that I would look out over the Peconic Bay. I saw many, many sunsets from there. And it was more breezier up there and windy, and it was just incredible. I spent a lot of my childhood alone and isolated within myself because of my childhood. But it was here that I could be honest with myself, even as a young boy and then as a teenager. And then later in life, when I left home and then I became successful, and my office was out in the Hamptons. So, and I lived fairly, at that time, not in West Hampton Beach, but not even 15 minutes away from there on the ocean, in Smith's Point. So when I needed to talk to God, and most of all, find my solitude and be honest with myself and have no one else, no family, no friends, no anybody, I could be honest to myself there. And in solitude within all of us, this is the place we can be honest with ourselves without anybody judging us. And it's being true to ourselves. And this is where the truth can be revealed to your own self. And then take it with you when you step out of that solitude. So when things were going crazy with my company, or I was stressed in my marriage and my business or whatever, I used to pull down there to the Shinnecock Canal, or in the Grove where my grandparents' house was. And I would just park and I would go down the beach. And I would just sit on the beach, or there was a big rock down the end of that beach, and I would sit on that rock. Or I'd walk out on the jetty in the canal, and on that canal we used to flounder fish and snapper fish. It was a good time in my life, the time I spent by myself fishing or on that beach. And as I said, I was by myself a lot. The more I could stay away from the chaos of my family, my father's family especially, the better off I was. And I felt safe. And in anybody, in yourself, when you learn to find this solitude within yourself, you will always feel safe there, because you can always be true to yourself. It's like the place of your conscience, so to speak. And the arguments my family would have at family get-togethers, and the fighting, and even violent fights, things being thrown, and the arguments amongst siblings, it was horrible, horrible, horrible. And I wanted to get out of there as much as possible when they got together. And there was always a fight. Always a fight. Always something going on. And then, as I've discussed in other shows, I was abused. So when a couple of those abusers would show up out there for these family get-togethers, I made sure I stayed as far away from there as possible. And the only place I felt safe and at peace was on that beach and up on those dunes. And it was farther enough away that, and I used to go up there even when there would be big arguments, or I was hit or beaten or thrown out of the house because it was, I wasn't wanted there. I would be crying as a young child and go up there and then stop crying. It was like, in solitude, you can take in and smell the roses, so to speak, about everything. And I used to reflect, and as a kid, and be like, even then, I was always looking at why things were, or why is this happening, and what should, and as a child, you feel guilty. You feel like you're the cause. And I knew I wasn't the cause when I went to my place of solitude. I knew, even as a younger age. I can't explain it, but I knew. And this, I hated leaving there. But I knew it was time to go back, or I knew the sun had gone down. And the smell of salt air, and it was peace for me. And now every time I smell salt air, or I return back to there, if I have to go there, and I've gone there just to go to the beach instead of the ocean side. And how the Hamptons on Long Island is set up is one side of the fork is one side of the South Fork is into a bay, and the other side faces the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. So this was just, and it's here as an adult even that I had to face the solitude within myself, the truth. And I've gone there many, many times to where I had to face the realities that I couldn't face outside of there. So this was like I had to do it. It was like I would used to force myself as an adult to go there when things got crazy and I got out of hand in business, and I was just going after power and um, money. And I'm like, I used to go there and be like, what are you doing, Scott? Look at what you came from. Look at how hard you worked. And you're going to sacrifice it now. You're going to sacrifice it now because of your own needs and greed, because you got off track and you lost the purpose. And it was there I could be straight honest with myself without fear of anything. And there I could talk to God and be like, how did I get myself into this mess? Or how did I get out of there? Or why is this happening to me? Why isn't my son my son? You know, I don't ask why to God anymore for a long time, because I know it just is. And we're all responsible for our own decisions, our own paths. But I used to leave this place, even as a little boy, content and at peace. And it was like everything else had gone away. And I came back with a better understanding every time I went there. I couldn't wait to get out there as a kid, because I would be leaving, my father's house or my mother's house, or my grandparents' house, um, I where there was just abuse. And abuse took place in that house as well, mainly at nighttime. But it happened in the evening times too when I was a little boy. And I remember running out of the beach house and down to the beach, and feeling violated and dirty and guilty. And I was just, 5 and 6 and 7. And I still remember it as clear as day. I remember it as clear as day. But when I went there to my place, it was like all of that. And I was honest with myself, even as a little boy, like, I have to get out of here. Someday I'm going to get away from this. And I'm going to do it as soon as I can. But the point is that the place, and then sometimes it takes a place for one to feel safe. And then when you feel safe, you can find that solitude within yourself, and thus the peace within yourself, to just be honest with yourself. You're forced to, because the mind knows it's safe, and it feels at peace there, and it feels good there. So it's like you can explore your mind in solitude. You can explore your dreams, your emotions, your wants, your needs. And you don't have to ever worry about being judged. And when it's amongst chaos, and we all have chaos in our lives all the time today, and I know we all try not to, but chaos is all around us. Forget about if it's not directly in our lives, it's all around us. You have to learn to take time out to find that solitude within yourself. You have to. It's a given. You have to learn to do that, because without that solitude, and it could be the place, go take a ride to the beach if that's where you feel your peace. And everybody has a special place. I know they do. I know they do. Even you have to take that time amongst everything that goes on in your life to examine yourself, to explore your own mind and be at peace and feel safe. Most of the world today lives in fear of something, whether it's a natural disaster or someone leaving them or death, or, every day it's constant anxiety and chaos and tons of it. And we all lose sight of ourselves. Most of all, we lose sight of ourselves. And it was because of what happened to me as a child, and being able and fortunate to have this incredible, wonderful place, this beach and the dunes and the mountains there, sand dunes and large sand mountains to go to just, and I love the water. I mean, I'm a Scorpio, but I just have always loved the water because I grew up on it. And that peace that you can find, and your spot could be the mountains. It could be, the mountains. It could be a park. It could be anything that makes you feel at peace. This is the solitude. And when you go there, you need to be honest and examine your mind from within. And you're forced to, because if you're real with yourself and you're at peace there, then you will look at yourself and you'll know, okay, I did this, I did that, I have to stop doing this, I need to stop doing that. Why am I not at peace? Why is there such craziness going on in my life? And sometimes we all get to the point where we feel like it's just going to implode and the madness just never ends. And it gets to the point where, you have to step out of the box of life, even. In other words, you have to find this solitude within yourself. I mean, it's, I'm trying to think. You have nothing to prove to anyone there but yourself. And whether you're walking a beach or climbing a mountain and sitting on a rock somewhere overlooking a canyon, and you feel this, and everybody, like I said, I know you have to have a place like that. And if you weren't able to have a place like that, I know there was a place in your neighborhood or your some place that you found solitude, that you found peace amongst the chaos in your life, growing up and then as an adult. Take time to go there. And if it's too far away to go there, find another place that makes you feel the same way, close to you. Because you can be humble. You can just be humble there. Nothing to prove, as I said. Nothing to prove. And for me, it started out as a refuge from the chaos. But as I kept going down and walking and even skipping rocks and playing with horseshoe crabs and if it was the summer months, it was great. And even in the winter, I would go up on these dunes or I'd walk that beach. I remember many times it had frozen over to Peconic Bay, pretty close to it. And I was out there playing, even on the ice or walking the rocks because the canal never froze. And it was just like a relief. I knew when I was there, and I used to run down the boardwalk from my grandmother's house. Just run down over the dunes onto the beach. And it was like, I'm safe for a little while. I'm safe for a little while. But I found myself there as a child and then as an adult. I remember I hadn't been there for a long time. I was in my mid-20s. I believe it was I was 26 years old at this time. And things were just, as I discussed in one of my other videos, it was just madness going on with the growth of my company and my marriage and so many responsibilities, and it was just craziness going on. And I had never dealt, as I said in the other video, I'd never dealt with facing my childhood pains. So I kept thinking to myself every day, because I had to get on Sunrise Highway to go to my office or travel to our jobs from Southampton to East Hampton to everything. Our offices were, my office was in West Hampton Beach. So I would pass that exit to get off to go to Hampton Bays. I didn't do a lot of work in Hampton Bays because my homes are mainly on the ocean that I did at that time. But I remember passing that exit, and I'm like, Scott, turn off. Go there. Go there. You need an hour. Even if it was 15 minutes, you need to go there. You need to go there. I kept getting called back there. It was like God was calling me back there. My soul was calling me back there. And I consider my soul God. And, as I said, it doesn't matter what religion you are. We all come from a higher power, period. And, and I'm not going to get into that, but there's definitely a God, a higher power. But I kept passing that exit, and I'm like, oh, I should do it. Finally, and my office is only like 15 minutes from there. It would take me 15, 20 minutes, if that, to get there. Finally, one day, I just walked out of my office. I had enough. I had enough. Flew in I had a Mercedes at the time. And I'm not bringing up the name of the car to brag, because this is part of the story when I went there. And here I am, and I park on the canal side. And I'm sitting there with the top down on my car. And I'm looking, and I'm just looking out, and I'm thinking, this fancy car and $1 million fleet of cars and 17 million a year, whatever we were doing in business, and all these employees and all this craziness, and workman's comp and whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, wow, I wish I was that kid again, sitting on that canal fishing, huh? Didn't have to worry about the material things and the responsibilities of an adult. And I got out of the car. I sat on the canal for a little bit, but that wasn't cutting it for me. And my great-grandfather used to go fish out at the end of the rocks all the time from the canal. So the canal would be there, and then the rocks jutted out throughout the one, and there'd be sandbars on the other side. We used to clam there as kids, dig them with our feet or with baskets, fresh little necks, and then make baked clams. And I walked out there, and I'm like thinking, I was just a kid here on this beach. And last time I was there, I think it was 15, 16. I was in my 20s at the time now. I'm like, here I was a kid with nothing. And here I am, with all this responsibility and all these things. And I kept looking up at the house, at my great-grandparents' house. And what came flashing from my mind was, all the horrors there, the chaos that happened there. And the battles were, I'm telling you, family get-togethers were just like pots flying in the kitchen. You name it. Things being thrown, arguments, stuff being broken. It was hot. And then running from the abuse. And here I just took my shoes off, and I started walking down the beach. And that day I actually climbed the dunes to the top. And I sat up there, and I just, and as part of solitude is being in touch with your surroundings as well. So like nature and where you are, and finding that. You could even be looking up at the stars, and being one. And I know it sounds kind of corny, but it's not. And it was like I was there, and I used to take in everything. I'm a type of guy. My IQ's significant, and sometimes I'm too smart for my own good. And I've had to learn to have to deal with that as well and control it. But as a kid, and then even at this time, I always took in, when I look at something, I see it in fine detail. Even if it's a tree, I look at the tree and I'll be able to see like the rings and look at the needles on a pine tree. It's kind of bizarre, but um, it's like that's how I can build. Somebody tells me I want to do this, and this to a house. I see it in my mind. I see how the door jambs go together. I see how the cabins get installed. I see the whole thing, and it's just like I can't stop it. I can't stop it. It just happens. But solitude has to do with your surroundings a lot of times. And as I said, it's that place. Although it's a place within you, the external place brings that out because you feel safe there. The soul feels safe there. And I'm telling you, you have to have this in your life. Some place to be yourself. I mean, your true self, that you don't have to prove anything to anybody, and it bring you peace at the same time. And you can look at your life and come to some peace with it, or the situation that brought you to the solitude that you're at. And I was up there, and I was just, the breeze was just, it was great that day. It wasn't summer at the time. I remember correctly, it was in October. The breeze was great, and it was just a nice fall day. And I just, looking out over the Peconic Bay, and I was remembering there used to be a float out in the water. There was a wood float that they would put out. I think it was about 50 feet out or 100 feet out, and it was ropes for the swimming area. And we, as kids, would swim out there, and we'd dive off of there. And I loved to swim. And it was there my grandmother taught me how to swim. And all these things, racing through my mind, and I was able to shut it down. I was able to shut the external happenings down and become in solitude and peace with myself at that spot. And it was the spot that triggered it, as I'm trying to say. Everyone has to have this, find this solitude. And once I shut down the external chaos, I was able to just talk to myself, our voice within us, and put everything into perspective of what I was doing wrong, and at this time, and what was happening, and what was affecting me and upsetting me. And I even that day focused and dealt with some things from my childhood. And I said, I'm gonna forgive that. I have to forgive that. And it happened to do with a family member, and I was gonna let it go. And it was kind of weird. I don't know where that came from, but it comes when you're in this you don't have to feel sorry in solitude. And solitude can come in other fashions. Sometimes solitude can be forced on us. We'll say with prison, or being locked within, i.e., four walls. Some people are forced into solitude. And you're forced then to take a good hard look at your life. So sometimes the place that you're in solitude, and it could even be a hospital. So you're in your own room in a hospital, and you're there, and you're by yourself, and you're stuck there in that hospital bed because you're sick or ill, or you can find, and once you're in that space, you create your peace from within. It doesn't matter what walls are around you, because you can be at peace behind the highest walls. and thus exterior barriers in your life. We're forced. I mean, we're forced. So when I ran down that beach as a kid, I basically, it was a self-help to my subconsciously run down that beach, get out of that house, go down there. And when you weren't wanted as a child, you know, children should be seen and not heard. But I learned a lot in this at this place, and I can go there now today, and I'm in peace when I go there. Even though some of the memories, not of the beach, but of the place and the beach house, are not good, but because I've faced those, and I was in solitude when I faced them. It's the only time you can really face yourself. I know you can sit there and then you have to have a place of peace and become one with your surroundings and be happy and content. It could be by sight, smell, sound, everything, and thus nature around you, the things around you. You could be on the top of a building in New York City. I know people who grew up in the city, they tell me, Scott, my safety zone was, the place I felt peaceful was up on the roof. They'd go run up to the roof when the parents were fighting or something was going on, and to find their peace. And then as adults, they would return there, believe it or not, or to another rooftop in a similar area if they still lived in the city. And they felt safe in a high place, and that they could, look within themselves, but they felt safe. You see, the key is to feel safe and at peace. And that's why I know a lot of people with the beach and the mountains and things. Because when you go to the beach, you hear the ocean, and that's nature. And it's like you go to the mountains and you could feel and smell, the trees and your surroundings around you, and you have views, and it's nature. But as I said, it could be within that building that you feel solitude. I'm just throwing out there about what I know about solitude and what I've done and learned from research. It's just a great place. And that was my place. And it kept me surviving. And again, I'll go back to the time when I was an adult and I went there. As I was telling you, I'm sitting up there, and it was like, what am I doing all this for? What is all this madness for? The chaos. What is all the madness for? What am I going to work every day from this? Don't get me wrong, I love to work, but what am I going after? And it was then I started to realize that I had gone off track, and some other things had happened that were starting to bring it in. There's signs everywhere in our life. You just have to pay attention to them, and it will help the path that we walk. But the signs are there. They're everywhere. And I could see when facing myself, when up on that dune, that I had gone off course. Me. And there was nobody there to judge me. It was just me, the beach, the salt there, God, my conscience. And I had a lot of decisions I had to make. And that's some I made right then and there because I felt safe. And I faced myself in this place. And thus God and what was going on in my life. And I left there feeling like this incredible calm come over me, and it was like, and then you have the memories, the good ones. And I'm actually going back to this place. I believe I'm going to go this weekend. I was going to shoot this show from there this weekend on Saturday, but the weather on Long Island when I was there was horrible to shoot it. And I wanted to shoot it and I still may shoot a story that's involved from there, another show, serious story from there. But please understand You have to have an escape. Everybody has to have an escape. Otherwise, you're going to implode. And some people say, okay, I need a vacation. Very similar, but, and it could be a place you've traveled on vacation that made you feel just incredible over other places you've traveled. And while you're there, you feel completely relaxed, you're completely with one, and you can think and be in your own solitude, whether it be laying in the sun or reading a book under a palm tree. Regardless, and as people, oh, I need a vacation, I need to get away. Well, not everybody can take a vacation. You usually can't take a vacation whenever you want. Not everybody has that luxury. As such, you need to find an escape that brings you solitude. An escape to solitude that'll bring you peace, so that you can regroup and face yourself and not have to worry about the fear of others or what anybody thinks or does. Because when you're not in a place like that, you think you're thinking thoroughly, and you're really not. It takes a place, this solitude within us all, and to become one with all, with the world, so to speak, with our surroundings, to really, really get it, and that pow factor, so that when you leave this place, you're feeling 100% better than when you came in, and you have some answers, as well as you're content. You faced, it's brought you some calm. Everybody has to have that outlet. In other words, and a lot of times we're forced into it, like I was as a child. I was forced into that solitude. And as I said, I spent a lot of my childhood alone. A lot of it. And I don't know, I don't regret anything that's happened to me in my life, and the good, the bad, because it's made me who I am today. And I finally can be me. I can sit here in front of this camera and be me and not have to worry about anything, because I have nothing to hide anymore. I just love being me. And I shouldn't use the word hide. It's very difficult for people to find themselves, to just be me, themselves, because they're always worried about what everybody else thinks. And I stress it. I stress it to you in my shows that don't worry about what anybody thinks of you. You owe them nothing. We owe the world, I should say, the people in this world, really nothing. We owe the world, the planet, more than we do others. We owe the planet respect. Yes, do we owe people respect if they give it to us? Just remember that, and take some time before you do implode, or when you feel yourself that you need that to get away from the chaos, find your solitude. You will find that you will make better decisions. It's like meditation. It's a good example. Meditation, people love to meditate, and it's very good for you. I would meditate there because that's basically what I did. When you're in solitude and you take in your surroundings, and you're focusing on feeling peace and freedom from the chaos, it's a form of meditation. It's a connection with your soul, and the show's not one of my hard-hitting shows. But it's a very, very important point that I'm making to you. So please remember, in solitude, and I'm branding this quote, we are forced to be ourselves. Because how do you face yourself as a fake? If you go someplace that brings you peace and that you feel safe, and you look within yourself and see, whatever brought you to the place, you're basically forced to look at yourself without worrying about anything around you, the chaos that brought you there to begin with. And learn to relax. That's part of it. I couldn't relax till I got to that dune. I couldn't relax till I got down that beach and away from the house. I couldn't. I didn't feel safe up at the house. I felt safe on the beach. And I'll even throw this in here real quick. There was a time I went down there, and this has happened to actually be the winter time. And my parents, I was 5 or 6, I believe it was 5. They were battling. My parents were battling up at my great grandmother's house. And there was a huge fight going on, and there was some other family members there. I don't remember what the fight was about, nor do I care, but I had to get out of that house. I think I was ordered out by my father, if I'm not mistaken. And my father was a cop at the time, Nassau County detective. So here I go running down the beach, and I start walking down towards the dunes as you see them in this picture, and it's a decent sized beach. So I'm walking, and I turn, and I hear this. Well, I'm walking first. Before I turn, I hear this sound. It sounds like a horse. And as I turn around, now I'm a little boy. I know I'm 5. I was 5 years old. I turn around, and there's a German Shepherd running right at me. Now, this is a private beach. No one's allowed to bring their dogs there or anything. And it was only the few homes that were in the grove, as they called it, where the residents. And my great-grandfather built that grove. He actually donated property to people and sold it off very cheap to friends of his who he only wanted in the small grove that was on this private beach. So none of them, the dogs are supposed to be kept on a leash there. So somebody had parked at the canal, and there's big signs there that says private beach, but to walk their dog, they just got out of the car and let the dog off the leash. And I turn around, and I had a winter jacket on, and all of a sudden, as I'm turning, I look and I see this dog. He was there, and he came just jumping right up at me, and I still have the scar. I still have the scar to this day. I don't know if the camera can see it, but it's right here. Right here. And it was, this dog took a big chunk out of my arm when I was 5. I mean, blood everywhere, everything. And I remember crying, and I remember the guy running down the beach, and he kept saying to me, open your hands, what hand? And I'm thinking, what's he talking about? I guess he thought I got bit in the hand. And I guess my father or my mother heard the commotion of me on the beach. How? I have no, I was pretty far down the beach, but I guess they heard it because my father came running down the beach, as my mother did. And my father, being a cop, was a trained paramedic. And the owner got the dog under control, who was flipping out. And I was then rushed to Southampton Hospital and stitched up, whatever. But that was the only terrifying thing that happened to me on the beach. At the time, it was terrifying. It was a big dog when you're 5. And I remember it as clear as day. And the next time I went down the beach, and I was there all the time, I didn't even think about the dog. I just thought about the beach and the place and the peace it brought me, and the safeness I felt. Just remember, you need to find that solitude within yourself and in some place, and be honest with yourself in that place, and find yourself there amidst the chaos, and your life will flow much better. It just will. And what you learn there within yourself during this time of solitude, stick with it, follow through with it. Good night. God bless. Thank you again for watching. And again, I want to, shows are going to be changing some some new sites have come up, and I want to let everybody know that I'm going to be separating. We're going to do some really good hard-hitting motivational videos of me be standing and whatever. And then I'm doing educational videos for business, for builders, things like that, for, as well as for social media. You're going to start to see videos from me on how to brand, how to master Facebook, and a lot of things happening in the social media world, and everybody's pushing the same stuff. I'm going to give it to you straight and to the point and what you need to do, and not charge you $1,000 to sit in on a webinar. As well as the motivational, they're going to be some pretty cool topics. Everybody wants how to be successful, how to be this. I'm going to put a different spin on it, and I'm going to give you the realism on that. So stay tuned. And then, my Sunday night shows are going to still continue with the way they are, but we're separating them, and we're going to start filming them next week, the other videos. And if you haven't seen it, check out my new website at www.scottbinsack.com. And I have to thank everybody again. I have met some incredible people, been connected with people I haven't seen in many, many years because of this show and what's going on, as well as just having great fans and followers. And you guys are just, thank you for sharing and liking and your comments and the emails. I can't express to you enough how much it means to me. My goal is really odd. My goal, see, by me talking to you, and I feel comfortable talking to the world on a camera. I just do, because I have nothing to hide. And my next show on Sunday, next Sunday, and I'll be filming it in 2 days actually, because I'm not going to be around this weekend, I'm going away. It's going to be about acceptance of the truth. People don't like the truth. Sorry to say it, but a lot of you watchers don't like the truth. And, you could show somebody something in black and white in the facts, and they'll still believe what they want to believe. And we're going to get into a heavy show about that. And people may not like what I have to say, but I'm going to say it. Because it's something that just irks me. And I see it in the world everywhere today. But especially in life with the internet. And people would rather believe the bad than the good, or the bad over the good over the bad, vice versa. The truth is the truth, no matter what spin you put on it, no matter what you do. The real truth is the truth. St. Augustine said it. I believe it goes. If the truth will set you free, and it'll come roaring back like a lion, and it does, and it does. And I'm a full believer in that. And I just want to help others not go through the things I've gone through. And as well as I help myself by talking to everybody. And I'm real. I'm just going to tell you how it is. People can't accept real. They think there's some motives or something. There's no motives. There's no nothing. I like doing this. I love doing it, actually. And I love doing the other videos we're about to be doing. So again, thank you so much, and God bless. Quick point. None of us can become successful at anything without the aid of others. You can't do it alone. It's a lesson I learned at a young age. Can't do it alone. So thank you.